All right, so the Rebbe is saying like this. At first glance, there's a little bit of a mistake in Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos was called the chapters of the fathers. They're the founders of Judaism from near the end of the Second Temple until this very day. And they had these very deep and amazing and practical sayings that a lot of times are against human nature to tell us how to improve ourselves. But interestingly enough, the six chapters, the first of these 6 chapters starts off with what's called a Mishna. Mishna means a teaching. So the teachings are the first Mishna, second Mishna, third Mishna. So usually these teachings, they're arranged according to who says them. Usually. Or according to some subject or some. So the first Mishnah gives us, first of all, a little bit of a history of the Torah. Moshe got the Torah from Mount Sinai. He gave it over to Joshua. Joshua gave it over to the elders. The elders gave it over to the prophets. The prophets gave it over to the men of the great assembly. And then it says, and the men of the great assembly, they said 3 things. Should be very calm, be very deliberate when you're judging people, make a lot of pupils, and make a fence around the Torah. So the Rebbe said, 1 second, why is this all in one Mishnah? It should be in 2 different Mishnahs. The first Mishnah should say, this is the history of the Torah. Moshe got it, and he gave it to Joshua, and Joshua gave it to the elders, and the elders to the prophets, and the prophets to the people of the great assembly. Period. Number 2, Mishnah number 2. The people of the great assembly said 3 things. So why are they all together? So Rebbe wants to say, listen, the fact is, in general, you can also ask another question, why do you have to have all this history lesson? And if you want to make a history lesson, then Moses got it and he gave it to Joshua. And Joshua gave it to the elders. The elders is a lot of elders. The elders spanned over several hundred years. Why doesn't it say at least a little bit who those elders are and who the prophets are? It's another several hundred years. And the people of the great assembly is also a long time. At least see who the people are in the great assembly. If you want to say that the reason is just to tell you that all these laws and these advice that's given to the rabbis are giving us is also from Moses on Sinai, which is true. So just say, Moses received the Torah from Sinai, and this is what the rabbis say. And then say the lesson. So the Rebbe says, no, you don't understand. These 5 levels, Moshe, Joshua, the elders, the prophets, and the people of the great assembly, these are 5 levels in our soul attitude toward learning Torah. The Torah is the essence of the Jewish people. The Torah is the essence of all creation. The Torah is the life force from which God creates the whole world. The Torah is the wisdom. It is the brains and the will of God. It's a map. You ever see an X-ray? They take X-rays, or they have these, nowadays they take, what is it called? Scans, CAT scans. Right? So people don't know how to interpret it. I'm not one of them, but you see a whole outlay of what the person is. You can see layers, etc., of who the person is and what's going on inside of his lungs and his heart and his brain. They can see if there's anything wrong, if there's anything right. They can say, well, that's what the Torah is. The Torah is, so to speak, a CAT scan of God's will. There's deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper levels. Right? Deeper levels. You can strip away the levels till you get to the secrets of the Torah and the secrets of the secrets. That's the Torah. But the whole world is created, enlivened, directed by the Torah. And of course, the Torah alone is not where it's at. The Torah was given so the Jewish people will learn it. That's the big miracle of the Torah. You can understand it. That's why God gave it, words. Right? God didn't have to give the Torah in words. He could have given a magic wand, chicken, magic chicken, eternal magic emerald chicken. Right? You could have given. And the chicken says one word. No, it says, one word. What is it? Nevermore, right? Never. Said the chicken, zuck the chicken, nevermore. You ever read that? It's the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. God could have given a holy chicken and everybody would just go to the chicken. That would be enough. What's wrong? You should know that the religions of the world are not based on much more than that. Not much more. There comes a guy and a person, and he came from the desert, from the mountain. Right? Right.
The chicken's eggs are like little words.
Right. You crack them like Chinese. It's a joke, but it says that the in the Torah it says that people were saying, Yitzchak Avinu, the son of Avram. The people were saying it's worth more the manure from the donkeys of Yitzchak, Zevel Preidot Yitzchak. So the manure from the donkeys of Yitzchak is worth more than the gold and the silver of Avimelech. He was like the king of the world or whatever at that time. And there was people who knew that there was an intrinsic value in the not just the donkeys, the manure from the donkeys of Yitzchak. Right? You have that. It's a better luck piece than it is to, what could you win with the manure of the thing? The best thing you could win is all the gold and silver. It says nah. And there are better things in life. Okay. So it says the Rebbe, there are 5 different attitudes every Jew has to have to learning Torah. First of all, there is the Moses inside of every Jew. Then there's the Yoshua inside of every Jew. It's a different attitude toward learning Torah. Then there's the elders. Then there's the prophets inside of every Jew. It's an attitude toward learning Torah. Each one is a different level of, maturity that's built on the previous. The earlier levels, that's the basis of learning Judaism. That has to be all the time. Like the basis of a building. The foundation of a building is the main thing of the building. Foundation. But on that is built a building. The foundation is there, so a building will be built on. Moses' attitude toward the Torah, that's the foundation. Then on that is built a secondary foundation. That's the attitude of Yoshua. And then there's a tertiary, whatever it's called, foundation. That's the elders. Okay, so let's see, what is this? What's the attitude of Moshe? What's that? The attitude of Moshe is, do you remember we said yesterday? Do you remember?
Nothing.
Total surrender to God. Total surrender. It says Moshe was the most humble person in the world. Moshe is this, whatever you tell me, God, I'll do. Whatever you tell me. The most ridiculous things, if I know it's you, I'll do it. I'll do it. Abraham was started off, but it says there was never nothing like Moshe. Moshe was the leader of the Jews. Moshe was the prophet. Moshe was this. But Moses' thing was total, how do you want to call it? Surrender to God. Total surrender. Like, you ever see a concert pianist? You ever see these people? Concert pianists, really good concert pianists. You ever see? Concert pianists. The people, they can play. The music is just running through them. They just, they don't look at the sheet music. They just know it in heart. Do you ever see it? It's quite amazing. Really quite amazing. I'm not such a big expert. I'm not saying I'm a big expert. If you look at these people, you see they're just incredible. And they sit and they play, Chopin and Liszt and all these amazingly complicated, pieces, Rachmaninoff and stuff. And the music is just flowing through them. That's total surrender to the music. They're not thinking about themselves or their hairdo or nothing whatsoever. They're just, music is just going through them. It says that's what we call surrender. But in this case, that's surrender to music, which is very, very nice. Well, this is called surrender to the creator of music, the surrender of the source of all being. Surrender. And it happens to be that the Jewish people are telling a lesson that the creator of all being has a very, very exact will. Right? Don't kill, don't steal, keep Shabbos. What does that mean? Well, how does that fit in? Keep Shabbos, honor your parents. A lot of these other religions, most of them, don't say I know all the religions, most of the other religions, the priests, the high priests, they don't have any children. They don't have any children. As a result, they never really fulfill this mitzvah of honoring their parents because they have no more children to honor parents. There's no more parents. So Moses' thing is, first of all, total surrender to God. Whatever you say, I'll do. Whatever you write, I'll try to understand. I'm giving myself right. Now, in the Eastern religions, what do they say? Total surrender means doing nothing. Nothing. The less you do, the better it is. Judaism is exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. If you're really negated to God, then you have to do. You have to improve the world. Don't sit by. If there's something that has to be fixed, you have to try to fix it. At least find somebody who knows how to fix it, or at least pray to God to fix it. Do something. Right? You have to be dynamic. You have to be active. You have to be active. Learn more Torah. Understand more Torah. Teach. We'll see. Okay, but first of all, you have to have the first basic attitude is don't think about yourself. Surrender, total surrender. Whatever you say. That's number one. That's Moshe. What's Yehoshua? Yehoshua is that he was totally devoted to Moshe. Yehoshua was totally devoted to learning Torah. Pure devotion to learning. Moshe was devoted to God. Whatever you say, I'll do. Yeshua's whole thing was he was devoted to Moshe. He was totally devoted to Moshe. He knew Moshe was so devoted to God, he was totally devoted to Moshe. This is a way of learning Torah that you accept from your teachers. You receive from your teachers. Like a little baby. This is what we call Kabbalat Ol. Kabbalat Ol means whatever you say, Moshe, I'm going to do it. Moshe is whatever you say, God, I'm going to do it. Kabbalat Ol means whatever you say, Moshe. Yehoshua was totally devoted to God also. But he knew that God's message comes only through Moshe. Everybody saw. Only Moshe went up on Mount Sinai. Everybody saw it. So Yeshua means total devotion to your teachers. The next level is the Zakanim, the elders. What's the elders? The elders are people that they enjoy it. They enjoy the Torah. They understand. Right. The Torah, the way the elders learn it, is true that they're totally devoted to God and they're totally devoted to their teachers, but they already start to understand the Torah. This is already putting the Torah in your understanding.
Joshua doesn't do that?
Joshua's main thing is, whatever you say, Moshe, that's what I'm going to do. Joshua wasn't, so to speak, independent.
So he was like Moshe, except that Moshe was straight to God.
Right.
And Joshua was straight to
Yes, total devotion to your teachers. Now you have to have both. You have to have total devotion to God, and you also have total devotion to your teachers. It's another floor. It's another level. So basically, every Jew has to be totally surrendered to God. Next level, every Jew has to be totally devoted to their teachers. In addition, to me, the next level, you have to learn the Torah and enjoy it. You have to be independent, right? You have to have total surrender to God. You have to have total, but you also have to be independent. You have to enjoy learning the Torah. That's the elders. Next level are the prophets. Now the Rebbe stressed before that at first glance, prophecy shouldn't be over here because the only one that was really connected to the Torah because of prophecy was Moshe. Moses was the only one connected to the Torah because of prophecy. He received directly from God. But after that, the Torah does not depend on prophecy. I told you that story. Right? If a person receives from heaven messages that tells him exactly what the Torah means, what it says, and that you don't listen to that person. You don't listen to him. If the person says, listen, I received the message directly from God, and he gave me the answer to this problem, you can say, okay, what's the answer? But we're not going to accept it. Well, let's hear what you have to say. It says, no, it's not me saying. It's God saying. The Lord is speaking through my mouth. You say, okay, take it easy. We already have Moshe. He's the one that received from God. And anyone who comes after that, we say, back to school, right? Back to school. You're making a mistake. So if so, what are the prophets doing over here? Why are they the prophets? The only one connected to the Torah because of prophecy, because of receiving directly from God, is Moshe. After Moshe, there's no such thing. After there's Moshe, there's no such thing. People cannot receive messages from God and say, this is the Torah. This is the new law.
You're talking about now, the time of the first temple.
Ever.
There was a lot of prophecy.
But the prophets did not, their thing was not Torah. Their thing was prophecy. The Torah does not depend on prophecy. Except for Moshe. Moses, what does it mean prophecy? You receive direct messages from God. Prophets. It says the only people that can be prophets are people that are totally pure. They have no selfish impulses. There's all these criterion you have to be a prophet. The Rambam, Maimonides, stresses them out. The whole Torah depends on prophecy of Moses. But after that, if someone comes up and says, God told me a new commandment, you say, no way. Or God told me all the commandments don't exist. According to Judaism, that's out. Another one of the big problems with the JC, with the Ashkelon. The Ashkelon came and said, God spoke to me, and he told me what the real meaning of the Bible is, and I'm God's son, and I can tell what they want, and I with this, tell it, maybe be a Democrat in the 2020 elections, but it's not going to go as far as Judaism goes.
So the main problem is it's not prophecy, but it's what the prophet is saying. If the prophet's making up new Torah.
No. If a prophet comes and says genuine ideas in Torah, true ideas in Torah that were given to him by God, you don't listen to him.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, that it's about Torah.
Right.
You accept it. If the prophecy is about that to improve yourself, that you...
No, of course, that's what prophets are for.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what prophets are for. I'm saying the Torah does not depend at all on prophecy, except for that of Moses. Okay. So he said, the Torah was given to people understanding. That's the elders. Like it says, Lo b'shamayim hi. Kol zo, Muvad, it's brought that the Tanaim and the Amoraim, they said all of their laws because God gave them inspiration. So it was Ruach HaKodesh. It says that all of the writers in Judaism, up to the Shach and the Taz, these are two commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, which the Shulchan Aruch of Joseph Cairo was written 400 years ago, 450 years ago. And the two of the commentaries on that was the Shach and the Taz. It said all the Jews up to that time, we're talking about 3,000 years, 2,900 years, was all from heavenly voice, Ruach HaKodesh, heavenly spirit. No, one second. We just finished saying that the Torah does not depend on prophecy, only Moses. Now we're saying that no, all of the people mentioned in the Talmud, and even after that, they all spoke with what's called Ruach HaKodesh, a spirit of holiness.
So how do you explain that?
The Rebbe says, I'll tell you how. They got inspiration from God, but they brought it into their own understanding. And they digested it according to their own understanding. And they checked to see if the idea that they received is really right according to understanding and according to the principles of the Torah. This does not that it's in heaven. In other words, what are we talking? Listen, what's going on? A person that's holy means that he doesn't have any selfishness. A person that doesn't have any selfishness, it doesn't mean he wipes his mind out completely, right? You ask him, what is the law over here? He says, whatever. No. It means that he has, like I said, he is dynamic. Okay, but what does he say? What does he determine? What does he say? He says everything he says is purely godly inspiration. So the Torah is not determined by godly inspiration, right? It says, no, these people was godly inspiration, but they took this inspiration into their understanding. They took the inspiration into their understanding. You have to understand something. They were created with certain nature. It says that Shammai was Gevura and Hillel was Chesed. So they had their nature and they had their connection with God. But when they received ideas from God, they took it into their understanding and digested it properly so that they could give the idea over as their idea. So was it really their idea or was it God's idea? The answer is they belong to God. So it was their idea. But they themselves are godly people. That's why it says in the Torah, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. All the words of the Talmud are the words of the living God. So they took it into their minds. That's why they're called the prophets. Why are they called the prophets and Nevi'im? Because they received their ideas from holy inspiration, but they took it into their ideas. They took it into their mind and digested it properly. But then we can understand the question. We're on page 158. What it says, Tishbi Yataretz Kushas V'Abayas. It says that in the future, when the Mashiach comes, that Elijah the prophet, Elijah Tishbi, that Elijah will come and he'll answer all the questions and problems in the Torah that are not answered. There's a lot of questions in the Talmud where it says Tiku. Tiku. Now, this is a question which will only be answered by Elijah the prophet, right before the Mashiach comes, after the Mashiach comes, but it'll be answered. Maybe the Mashiach himself will be, who knows? Ela shehu yetaretz v'fsok b'seichel v'havana v'hanavua eno ela hagdama l'psak havana. Elijah the prophet will come and answer the problems. How can Elijah come? Elijah's going to come from heaven. The Torah is not in heaven. It says Elijah the prophet never died. You ever hear that before? Herschel. Elijah the prophet never died. He went up to heaven in a chariot, and he comes to every bris. And anybody ever see him? You ever see him before? The Gemara, the Talmud starts off in Brachas, right in the beginning, that someone saw Elijah the prophet. He was dressed like an Arab. He went and gave a person advice.
There's quite a few stories.
A lot of stories about Elijah the prophet. And so Elijah the prophet, on the other hand, he's spiritual, he's physical. What's going on? He says, listen, he's both. He's going to answer all the questions that are on the Torah. He says, whoa, wait a minute. How can that happen? The Torah is not in heaven. Once the Torah was given down to earth, there's no more prophecy. Prophecy does not apply to the Torah. It applies to helping people keep the Torah. Right? If the Jewish people stray from the Torah, the prophets came along and tried to warn them and conduct them in the proper way. Says the Rebbe, if so, how can Elijah the prophet answer? That's going to be from heaven. Says Elijah the prophet truly is going to be in heaven, but it'll be according to his own holy intelligence. It'll be brought into intelligence. I mean, there are answers. He'll just have superhuman abilities to answer questions. And so it is to us. After prophecy ended, Pasak halacha la'amito shel Torah kashur b'yirat shamayim. Now, serving God, and answering questions of the Torah, it depends. You have to be a